Hi, I'm Jason Spangler. I go by Santee Swapper on eBay. This is the first episode in a fun little video series that we're calling Threadheads. My guest host is Brad England, and I'm going to have him introduce himself in just a second. Let me start off by telling you how I got the patch bug, how I became a Scout patch collector. I really started collecting Boy Scout patches when I was a Cub Scout. My dad gave me Council Expo patches, and I tried to put together a collection of the different years. And then when I really got hooked was in 1986 when I was an Ordeal member of the Order of the Arrow. Went to my first OA event with some patches in my pocket, and all the kids in my campsite were trading patches that week. We probably traded the same patches back and forth all week to each other because we didn't have a whole lot to begin with. But after that I was hooked, and I really got deep into it when I went to the 1989 National Scout Jamboree. So fast forward 25 years later, and I've been hooked on Scout patch collecting for a long time, and I've really enjoyed it. Brad, why don't you tell the folks a little bit about yourself, and we'll introduce our show here in just a second.
Yeah, absolutely, Jason. I have pretty much a similar story. I got hooked on patch trading at the '97 National Jamboree. Just my parents bought me the 10 extra patches at really cheap that the contingent was selling, and so I had a pocket full of patches, and I watched these kids set up blankets on the side of the road there at AP Hill, and started doing some patch trading there with people I met. So that's kind of how the bug started, and I went to 2 NOACs a few years after, did a little bit of patch trading, and then in about 2009 got back into it, and have been hitting it hard ever since.
Well, Brad, let's tell everybody about this idea of Threadheads. Now, the name Threadheads, if you don't know that already, it's sort of an inside joke among patch collectors. There's kind of a joke in the Order of the Arrow that there's a couple different types of groups of people who are real active. The patch collectors are called Threadheads. That's pretty obvious. We also have the Feather Freaks, which are the people who are just in it for the Native American dancing. That's their thing. And then in my day, they called the other group of people the Paper Pushers, kind of the administrative people. And so Threadheads is kind of us poking fun at each other, and this is kind of a fun, silly show about a little hobby we have, so we're just having fun. Brad, why don't you kind of tell people some other things that you and I have talked about, what this show might be?
Sure. Turning the show into something that's beneficial to the hobby. I think we take that approach with everything we've done, including the Facebook group. But we want to be able to answer questions. We want to be able to bring in people that can help us answer questions about certain points in the hobby, certain collection areas, and even educate ourselves on things and be able to capture it in video format for other people to be able to see and take note from. So there are some spots in the hobby, Jason, you and I have talked about that kind of losing the history of it or the glory of collecting certain areas. And I think this is our way to kind of give back to the hobby by doing these shows.
Yeah, when we started the Scout Patch Collectors Facebook group over 2 years ago, one of the things that we did at the time was we thought that there would be a use for a website, and so we quickly bought the website scoutpatchcollectors.com, and over the last 2.5 years really have not done very much with that website. And so as I've now gotten the site kind of cleaned up and redeveloped and ready to go, I was trying to think of having sort of a marquee thing that would be the content for that site, and this idea of having a Google Hangout on Air, which is what you're seeing in this Threadheads video, that was kind of the idea that you and I came up with. And so as Brad, as you mentioned, we're going to have some guests on. No guests tonight. This is our first show. We're just making sure that the computer doesn't crash again, as it already did once tonight. And we're just trying this format out. So it's going to be about a 30-minute show. That's our goal for each week. And we're going to try to have a show every week. But both of us have families and children and all, so don't hold us to that. So, Brad, what else about Threadheads?
I think that pretty much explains it. You had talked about the Facebook group, and I think we're taking on the show with the same concept that we did with the Facebook group, in that we kind of had this vision and idea of where we wanted it to go, but we let the overall membership pretty much grow that into what it's become today. And I think the show will do the same thing, and we're basically facilitators here, and to help further the hobby and educate people where we can. So really don't know where this will be in 3 or 4 or 5 episodes down the road, but this is our taking a step out and a start in that direction.
Well, as you mentioned, one of the goals is to kind of help collectors and kind of be, with this visual video show, kind of help show some new collectors maybe some things. And so we want to move into a segment tonight that we're going to work on calling How to Store Your Patches. Just a real simple basic thing. You and I both have a few things prepared to show people. So I'm going to kind of start off. Brian, I probably never showed you this. This is, again, one of the cool things about having a video show. So I have a collection of Order the Arrow flaps. It's a very weak made number set. Got a lot of holes in it. But the topic here is how to display your patches. And so I want to show this because it's kind of different, something that I came up with several years ago that's kind of fun. So if I hold this a little closer to the camera, you can kind of see what I've done here. These are the Brush Creek Trading patch holders, the PPS, and I can sort of slide this out. I've got them on, they're taped down to cardstock paper, which kind of gives it the firm thing. And then what I've done here is I actually cut and pasted from OA images the important information from the lodge. I felt like if I wanted to have a collection of OA patches, I'd want to know where was the lodge, what did the totem mean, all that stuff that you find on OA images. So this is just one page that I pulled out of my binder thing, and I've got different lodges here, and like I said, I've got some holes, but I've also got some pretty good ones. This Lodge 69 Maza Shah, that's a pretty good one. I was pretty happy to get that one. So that's just one of my little things. Brad, show us something you've got.
You know, I do kind of the same thing. I have really 2 methods I use, and it took me a while to figure out how I was going to do it. Of course, I've used the binders before when you go to traderies and things like that. But basically, I have 2 methods. For my trade stock, I use these. This is a baby bottle liner, and dropped that one. But this is a Walgreens brand, I believe. I can show you a box. But it's got the flat bottom. A lot of them have like the curved bottom, which are kind of annoying. But then I use just an index card with it. So that's an index card, and I write the description on it. And I actually take these and I file them in a box. And the box is a little too big to show you, but the dollar store, they have these dollar shoe boxes. And so I can fit probably 100 or so flaps in there, and I do them in chronological order. I do them in numerical order so that I can find the lodge, and I put the number up there and then the issue up here. So that's how I store a lot of my trade stock. To me, it helps kind of keep them in line and stuff. And then for my collection, I use Best Hobby Pages. This is actually what he calls his 4-pocket envelope. It's got the, most of the guys have seen these. Love the product. I've used it for a while. And just label, and I try to label as much as I can on the patches. You'll see on this one, and this is actually my dupe box, but it's the issue number and the catalog number. The lodge number, and then the catalog number, issue number, and then there's some space over here to put notes. And sometimes I do put notes if there was a limited number made. Or if there's other things I need to know about it that help me out. And then I actually show you a little shot here. I kind of cheat on Joe's stuff, and I love his products, but I found out the little secret here. This is my tip of the day. The BCW 4-pocket pages, right there, that brand right there, actually hold the Joe's 4-pocket pages there from the Best Hobby Pages. So I put them in the envelopes, and the envelopes fit right in there, and that's actually how I store most of my collection. Some of my big collections, like my home lodges and stuff, I actually have these binders with empty slots for when I get that patch. So and then for bigger patches, I use different things, but that's the basic thing that I use to store my collection. And I'm getting to the point where I'm making a binder per lodge. And then, of course, there's always the old baggie and backpack method for traveling to traderies and stuff. I mean, you know how it is, Jason. You just stuff it in your bag and just go walking around, just pull out a baggie and let people sift through it. I still do that a little bit, but I'm trying to get more towards labeling things with these, especially my trade stuff, so that when I pull this out, I know what issue it is, and I've even started writing some information on the back. If I've you can't really read it too well through the plastic, but just a couple of things couple of ways I store my patches.
Well, Brad, let me show you one more before we end this segment, and it's kind of funny. It's sort of similar to what you do. So this is a simple 4x6 plastic Ziploc. I'm not sure the name brand's really Ziploc. I actually get these from Chris Jensen. He lives in my area, and he gives me a good price on them. But what this is actually just sort of, white shiny on this side. The flip side is actually my little logo with all my contact information. And so there's a company in Miami called clubflyers.com. That's my tip, clubflyers.com. And you can send them your artwork and get these printed out. This is like, UV reflective 14 point whatever it is, and really super nice paper. And it's sort of like a cardstock kind of thing. It's pretty firm. So on this side, if I have a patch showing, you can kind of imagine the patch is nice and clean with white background. But then on the reverse, it's all my contact information. So a lot of times when I'm mailing stuff to people, I might ship it in one of these because automatically they have my business card. So that's kind of my tip for storing patches. I like your idea of sort of making up something that works for you. And so I'm sorry, I want to say diaper. It's not diaper. It's milk formula bags. That works well.
Yeah, these are our bottle liners, and kind of the same. I mean, I guess you could stick 3x5 card kind of like you do in there. The thing I really like about this is when I do mail individual patches, I use the self-seal envelopes, not the full size, but the smaller envelopes. And this actually helps if you put it in where the flap or the patch is on the side that you seal it. Then when it runs through the machine when you're mailing patches, it's flat enough on this side that it won't get caught in the machine, and they don't charge you the surcharge to mail the patch. So that's one of the ways it benefits too, especially. And then if you're mailing a couple things, it helps keep things from getting shoved under one another. It kind of keeps them flat and straight, which my USPS tip of the day is that the flatter, the cheaper, right? So that's kind of the way they operate. So that kind of helps me with that.
Well, Brad, let's go into our next segment, which we decided in the middle of the show we'd kind of have a longer segment. And so with this first show, we wanted to go back to our roots. The very beginning of Scout Patch Collectors Facebook group was talking and sort of interviewing you about this idea of how to trade patches on Facebook. And so we thought that would be a really good idea to come back to that tonight with our first show of Threadheads and just see if you could kind of share some tips about how people can trade patches on Facebook. Let me show you one little thing before you get started. I think this is so interesting. When we started the Scout Patch Collectors Facebook group, we were tapping into something you had already been doing, which was using Facebook to kind of do an old-fashioned thing, which was to trade through the mail with people. Well, the other day in the mail, I got a copy of this book. This is a 1966 book. It's an Order the Arrow Lodge listings book. And in this book, it's sort of an old-fashioned, pre-blue book kind of thing that gives you the different lodges and stuff. But one thing that's in here is there's also addresses. And it talks about trading through the mail. And so there's actually addresses of people in here that you can trade through the mail. This is 1966, and here's Bruce Dordick, who's one of the board members of ISCA, and not trying to date him or anything, just saying, And there's a few names in here I recognize. So, this was the really old-fashioned way of doing it, trading through the mail, and Facebook has kind of brought that back. So, start us off, Brad. Tell us what some of your basic tips are for trading patches on Facebook.
Okay, all right. Well, we'll kind of rehash some of that we talked about, a couple years ago when we were getting into it. I think number one, the biggest tip I can give to people is start a patch profile. If you're really using Facebook to house pictures of patches and you're having a lot of conversations. Now, we did solve a little bit of that issue by making the group private, so it wasn't showing up on your friends' feeds that you were posting stuff, and so trying to fix that. But if you're not too deep into it, or if you get too deep into it, separate your profiles. Have a profile for just patch trading. I have a personal, professional profile as well on Facebook, but I use the patch or my patch trader profile to trade patches and post things to Facebook. It also helps with, now there's so much spamming, and I know you and I try to control that, and it's still an issue that they're not spamming your personal profile and getting your personal information and stuff. So for me, that's a good thing. It's been brought up to me in the past about people using call signs, if you will, and not using their name. Just some concerns with that, but we haven't really had any issues with that. My next tip is just post pictures. I mean, a lot of people say I have CSPs to trade, or I have flaps to trade, or I have this. I mean, the beauty of Facebook is most of the time you can pick up your cell phone, snap a picture of it, upload it. A picture's worth 1,000 words, So post the pictures and allow people to comment on there. So my next tip is, finish trades via private message. I mean, I love watching people say, "Hey, private message me. I want to talk to you about this." But a lot of patch deals are made in private messages, which is kind of a courtesy to the rest of the group. I mean, I love, just like anybody else, to watch deals be made, but there becomes a point when the way Facebook works, how it cycles everything to the top, where it just keeps cycling that thread, and makes it tough to see other things. And then and these are just some basic tips. And then my last one that I want to hit on today is just remove photos. If you traded something, remove the thread. That's just a courtesy to the rest of the people that are posting things, because once again, it'll cycle things back up. Delete posts, or someone suggested earlier today, I was looking at a thread that pull the picture down and mark out an X on the ones you don't have and repost the same picture, or edit it like that so you're not having to take another picture. But that way that you kind of keep it clean and keep it people from asking if things are available that are not available anymore.
What about, I
So
know
have you
one
got
of the things that you told me when we did the show a couple of years ago, you talked about having albums on your personal profile. Is that something you still recommend?
I've kind of abandoned the albums, but a lot of what happened back then is the concept was to have these personal profiles and then have people really conversing with each other, making trades, and that's the way I was doing it at the time. I had albums on my Facebook page, and that's how I was trading, and that's because there wasn't a group kind of in the middle, if you will. And now I think that the group hosts albums. You can actually put an album in the group, which will kind of solve a little bit of that issue of having a patch profile. I mean, if you wanted to put a patch album on the Facebook group, you can do so. I've slowly kind of removed the patch albums from my profile there, with the exception of things I need. I'll go grab a picture and throw it on my profile, and I'll say, especially my home lodge, these are things I'm needing. And so I think some people still do that, but the way that it's kind of evolved is that people are using the albums on the Facebook group, not so much their profile pages like we had envisioned.
Yeah, I think it's kind of developed over time, and we started when we did that interview. I think we just started the Facebook group, and maybe it had 50, 60 people in it, and now it's 1,000 times bigger. It's 6,000 some people, and there's a lot of trading that goes on there. So that's just kind of natural evolution of this. Brad, we trying to stick to our time schedule, so we need to move on to our next segment. Maybe we'll come back in another show and talk some more about trading patches on Facebook. This was kind of a fun segment. I've been looking forward to this. We have a segment that we're going to call Mailbag, and again, the idea is that trading things and such, then this is the segment where we want to show things that we've recently got in the mail and just kind of talk about them, kind of have fun with it. So why don't you start us off and share with us something that you got in the mail recently that you want to just kind of talk about? And I've got a few things set to the side here I'll share.
Awesome. Yeah, I got a couple things, and I'm going to kind of cheat a little bit because I didn't get these in the mail, but they were delivered to my office, which is phenomenal. I got my new my home lodge, Manu 133. So I got our new NOAC stuff, man. It's pretty cool. So this is based off of the artwork from The Great Gatsby, and the kids did a wonderful job designing it. I just want to kind of show it off, and they actually have these on the lodge website. You can order from Manu Lodge anytime at oapatches.com. They have all our stuff up there. And here's the other two. These are the special ones, right? We do a camper ship council strip every year, and this actually has a raised logo on it in the middle, and the teepee is also kind of 3D embroidered. And then every year we do a all event pass. Basically, you pay for all the events for the year. This one is like our lodge flap's been for the couple years, and this is raised off the patch too. But we are in Oklahoma, and we love our Oklahoma City Thunder. So this year's design was based off the colors of the Oklahoma City Thunder uniform. So thought it was pretty awesome. And then I got one more. I'm really quick here. This one's not from my lodge, so I don't feel too bad. Tonkawa Lodge 99, I'm right here, turned 99 years old this year, and they put out a series of these patches, and it was $99 for 99 patches. Basically what they did is they produced this the set of patches, and they individually numbered them. If you see right there, I got number 92. You actually got two of these identical, one to keep in your collection and one to trade or whatever you wanted to do with it. But and then along with that came some of their NOAC stuff. But I thought it's really cool. This is a lodge that took an opportunity to do a play off of their lodge number, did a 99th anniversary. It also happens to be an old Region 9 lodge, which I collect. So pretty cool. I'm pretty excited about that. Turned out to be a really cool patch.
All right, well, you and I have been talking about Threadheads for like a month now, and so for about a month I've had sitting off to the side these items that I had pulled out that I thought were kind of cool, so I want to share them for the mailbag segment. This first is nothing too super exciting, a Garrison hat, except that I got this in a collection recently, and I didn't even know this existed. This is an extra large, and so any other size would not fit me. But an extra large Garrison cap actually does fit me correctly, and I could go to my next scouting event wearing this Garrison cap, and I would feel like I was really cool. So this one is going to stay in the collection, and I'll wear that to a scouting event where I want to look like I'm, walking out of the 1960s. While we're on the thing of hats, this is kind of funny. Now this is not going to fit me, but I'll put it on just to be silly since we're using video. So I got this hat in the mail also in a collection that I bought. And the thing that struck me about it was I knew it was like a modern era hat, but I had never seen this hat before. I didn't know what the heck it was, and it wasn't until a couple weeks ago when Oscar de la Renta passed away, and there were all these little memorial things up on the internet about him, and Scouting Magazine actually republished something that was, I guess, from a Scouting Magazine talking about the different designs he did. I found out this hat is a ladies' hat that I guess came out in the late 80s or early 80s or something, but it's an Oscar de la Renta hat. It actually has his tag in the back here, Oscar de la Renta. There you go. And this was a female hat, so I guess I probably shouldn't wear it anyways, even though it doesn't fit. I'll steal a couple more moments of this segment because this is something I got in the same collection, and I never really paid attention for this, never looked for these things, never tried to get them. But in this collection, I got in some signed sashes, and I have never owned, all these years, I've never owned an Ian or Goodman signed sash, and this is a Brotherhood sash. And then I also got another signed sash, never had one of these either, and that's good old Green Bar Bill. So those are two pretty cool sashes that I'll be holding on to for my collection. So I'm so glad we got to do this mailbag. thing because I've been waiting for so long to show these to you, Brad.
Well, those are some awesome finds, Jason. I like that, man.
That's the fun thing about buying collections is you never know what you're going to get, and so I'm looking forward to using that segment to just kind of pull out some things that I come across that are kind of fun. We've got a couple more little segments left, Brad. The next thing we want to talk then about is an eBay ninja trick, and so just a couple minutes on this. This might be a little more advanced for some people, but I'll kind of speak up and give my eBay ninja trick. Um, right now on eBay, this is a good example. If you have an eBay store, or if you just sell stuff on eBay and you actually use the fixed price listing, the typical way that people would run a fixed price listing on eBay is they would click the choice for good till canceled, and it's abbreviated GTC on eBay. Now, by making an item good till canceled, what you're doing is it's going to run for 30 days, and it's automatically going to renew itself and run for another 30 days and keep going and keep going and keep going. And so that is sort of the easy way that eBay is set up for you to have an eBay store and just to list these things, and they'll always be in your store until they sell. Well, here's the ninja trick. eBay never ever gives you free listings for good till canceled items. They do, however, give you sometimes a deal where they'll give you a free 30-day listing and it won't cost you anything. So my ninja trick is take your good till canceled listings, convert them to 30-day fixed price listings, and then tell eBay, it's called an automation rule, assign an automation rule to that listing, telling it to relist until it sells, and essentially you'll have a GTC listing, but whenever eBay runs those specials like they are right now, the special I'm getting is 1,000 free listings per day for the next 3 days. I will get all those for free. But if they were GTC, which is what a lot of sellers use, you'd never get those for free. They're not going to give those away for free. So there's an eBay ninja trick for you if you do store or fixed price listings.
Awesome. I'll have to try that out.
Do that. We're going to wrap it up now. We try to keep this to a 30-minute show, and so we're not going to. It's not like broadcast TV where we're going to have to break for commercials, and it's a hard break. But why don't we kind of wrap things up? And since I've been talking about the ninja trick, I'll let you kind of talk a little bit about what the future of this Threadhead show is going to be, and just kind of lead us out tonight.
All right. Hey, thank you, Jason. I mean, the future of the show is, like we said earlier, just depend on what comes at us. I mean, we want to hear about what you want to know about as far as the hobby and hot topics, areas that need to be covered, just awesome things or undiscovered areas. And we want to make this show as beneficial to the audience as we can make it. So if you have any questions, ideas, I'm sure we'll have an opportunity for you to send in some requests, as well as we're working on a lineup of guests to help us with that. So just stay tuned in the future. I'm sure we'll have some things come along that are pertinent to your collecting and your collecting areas, and we'll make this a fun, exciting venture for all of us.
And Brad, I should mention too that both of us are board members of the International Scout and Collectors Association. And so I kind of feel like, we should be trying to do things to further the hobby. And so us having sort of this, I jokingly call it our Wayne's World show, where it's sort of very amateurish, and we're talking about something we are passionate about. It's not rock and roll music, but it's Boy Scout patches. That maybe will help the hobby a little bit. Also, in case anyone's been wondering, I should probably admit, I am wearing a Girl Scout shirt tonight, as you're wearing your Class A uniform. And I can even stand up and show you. It says, "Keep calm, I'm a Girl Scout." This is our troop. This is our troop T-shirt for my daughter's Girl Scout troop, and I am the leader. And so we had a meeting tonight, and just like you, dressed in your Class A, coming from a Boy Scout meeting, I'm dressed in my troop T-shirt coming from a Girl Scout meeting. So there you go.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, I had a district committee meeting tonight, so I don't always dress like this, but when when I have those kind of meetings, I do. So
When duty calls. All right,
absolutely.
we're at the 30-minute time limit, so we're going to end this show now, Brad. I hope everyone listening will stay tuned. This show will be on scoutpatchcollectors.com. That's going to be kind of the home base for it, and it also will be published on YouTube. Anyone can look for it there. And we hope to do a weekly show again, so come back and check us out.